Next team, Cleveland Cavaliers. I have 3 sets of players for them, totaling 5 players. They need perimeter offense, basically, just some oomph there. Justin Holiday was a recurring name here. And then Bryn Forbes was even just, you need Colin Sexton's out the rest of the year. You need someone to come in and just microwave score. Bryn Forbes is so cheap. Those I just think are names you don't even need to discuss. Where if you can get them, they're not going to cost you even a Jetty Osman.
Right.
You do it. The medium size
fourth quarter god Jetty Osman, I believe, is his full name now.
The medium sized guy I have is a Caris LeVert, as someone who is going to put downhill pressure on the rim, theoretically can create his own shot. And I think he can give you, because I don't know what he costs you. Are you willing to give up Ricky Rubio plus stuff for Caris LeVert when LeVert has been so off? I know Rubio's been important to the Cavs. I might consider it just because of what they need offensively. And I think LeVert as point guard lineups can work. And he's cheap enough next year where it's not prohibitive to have him and Colin Sexton Jr. on the roster. I just call him Colin Sexton Jr. for no reason whatsoever.
I have no idea why.
Where it's not prohibitive to re-sign Colin Sexton and keep LeVert on the roster at the same time. So he was my medium-sized guy. It's tougher to actually construct the medium trade because unless you're going to give up Jetty Osman, which he's kind of important, if push comes to shove, he's the way better shooter than Caris LeVert. You have to go the Ricky Rubio route. And then even if you're willing to give up Osman, you're not trading Okoro for Caris LeVert. And so it gets really hard to get up to LeVert's salary. The 2 all-in plays I had, Brandon Ingram, and the thought process here was you offer every pick and prospect you basically can without including Allen, Mobley, or Darius Garland. Like, those are the guys who are off limits. Okoro's not off limits in that trade. If New Orleans decides to start selling, I don't know that I actually don't hate it for Cleveland, obviously. The other one, and this was along a similar lines, but let's say Portland decides to rebuild. I know people have pointed out Damien Lillard. I saw trades where the Cavs were getting Damien Lillard without giving up Darius Garland. It's not happening. Would you just go through this with me?
I would.
Or you wouldn't? Is that what you're going to say?
No, I would.
Okay. I'm just saying, if you give up, you're keeping all your core guys, but you're getting CJ McCollum. And it's probably mean to use Kevin Love as the salary basis here. So it would just be cruel to trade him to Portland, and that's when CJ McCollum's leaving and they're rebuilding around Dame. But you can also go the Ricky Rubio plus others. Like, if it's Rubio and Okoro and filler to get CJ McCollum, and Portland's just looking to rebuild, and they view Isaac Okoro as, okay, you know what? This is fine. Like, we have a defensive ring now around Dame. We're planning for the future. My basic premise here is if you can get CJ McCollum without giving up any one core to your existence right now or too many picks, maybe you're not even giving up a pick if you're giving up Okoro. I would hazard McCollum's way too important for Portland and them to think like that. The premise here, again, is the Blazers have decided to rebuild, but they're not necessarily trading Dame. Maybe they've decided to try and rebuild around Dame, which I do think is a path not enough people are considering that's on the table. No, they're not trying to trade McCollum for a star or other players for a star. It's, we are rebuilding, but we're also trying to do so around Dame in a semi-expedited fashion.
I want this to happen so badly now. I had not considered that possibility before, but Darius Garland, CJ McCollum, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen, if you can't build a contending team around that quartet, then you just shouldn't be working in an NBA front office.
And I'm curious, I think some of the hangups are, I would trade Okoro for McCollum personally, given how good the Cavs have been defensively this year. Colin Sexton, I would move. And he fits with Portland's timeline in the sense that he's not playing again this season. All of a sudden now he needs to get paid, though. And you kind of enter this weird cycle where it's, all right, we've paid McCollum, traded him, we've paid Powell, we have Dame, are we going to pay Sexton too? So is there a third team involved? Are you keeping Sexton because he becomes superfluous with...
I don't think you need to keep Sexton here.
I'm just saying, would Portland be interested in him? And that's why it could necessitate a third team.
Mm-hmm.
But if the basis is Sexton, Okoro, and maybe a pick, and then salary filler, whatever it is, I'm considering it if I'm Cleveland, because I do think a full-strength McCollum is an upgrade over Sexton. I mean, that's actually tough to say. They're probably closer.
I don't think it's that close.
I think it's closer than people realize, but McCollum, with the exception of this season, like, his offense has proven to be playoff proof.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that Sexton elevates those around him yet. I enjoy watching him play, but like, I don't know. I feel like we've read enough stories about his mentality and seen kind of the put the head down, I'm going to go get my points mentality and play, that I don't know how much of a superfluity it is, so much as like an unnecessary piece. Just different connotations there.
I mean, in theory, just because Rubio's making 17.8 and Okoro's at 6.7, I think you can take back CJ with that. So if it's those two and picks, you can keep Sexton, and to have him come off the bench behind McCollum and a Garland, that's something that you could look at. Not something I would be
if he accepts that role.
I mean, he's a restricted free agent, so his leverage would be minimal in that situation. But yeah, I hear that. So the Cavs were interesting because they've been so good this year. I know it's just year one of Mobley, but there's also like Garland's going to be extension eligible this summer. Sexton's a restricted free agent. You've paid Allen. There's a little bit of urgency there, especially, again, when you've been so competent this year.
And Evan Mobley alone just changes the calculus a lot because he's so good in so many ways at this age with this experience level. Like the fact that we don't have any idea what his ceiling is going to be because he's just looked that good as a rookie just opens the door for so many more moves of that nature.
Which is why trading for someone like McCollum is not necessarily tethering yourself to the middle, because Mobley and even Garland, those are two impact players now, but also these huge swing pieces.
Also, let's not discount Jared Allen, who's just been phenomenal this
Leveled
season.
up his offense for sure. So that would just be something I'd look at if I'm Cleveland.